Renata Alexander Costa-Coelho was a young woman of only 25 years old at the time of the incident. She was a lawyer and also worked as a public defender in the municipality of Amaragi, in the state of Pernambuco, Brazil. Her family described her as a wonderful person, communicative, hardworking, and full of ambition. She was experiencing a wonderful moment in her life, achieving great success in her career and taking the first steps to fulfill her greatest dream, which was to build a family. However, all of Renata's dreams were stolen on the day she took the first step toward realizing this dream, the day of her wedding. What's worse, the person who took this away from her was precisely the man who had sworn eternal love to her that same day, before taking her life in an unforgivable and incomprehensible manner. Today, we will talk about the Renata Coelho and Rogério Damascena case. During her early years, Renata studied at Savina Petrilli School, located in the municipality of Ribeiro, in the interior of Pernambuco. It was there that she ended up meeting the man who would become her fiancé in the future, Rogério Damascena. Although they met at school, the two only developed a relationship many years later when Renata was 22 and he was 26. Rogério worked as a sales supervisor at a motorcycle dealership and was described by the family as a calm and very cheerful man. Renata was very happy with her relationship with Rogério, as since she was very young she had always dreamed of building a family, and Rogério seemed to be the perfect man for that, being very affectionate, attentive, and always showing a lot of love for Renata. However, all the love he felt for her gradually spiraled out of control and turned into an apparent obsession. Rogério began to become more jealous each day, even though Renata didn't give him reasons for it. The jealousy started as something trivial that could even be considered cute by Renata, a demonstration of how much Rogério loved her and cared about her. But over time, the feeling grew and became suffocating, causing many fights between the couple. Renata began to feel coerced because whenever she was with Rogério, she had to be careful with trivial things that could trigger his excessive jealousy. There were situations where the couple was driving, and Rogério had a fit of jealousy just because Renata simply looked to the side to see the view from the window, and he thought she was looking at another man. On another occasion, during a gathering among friends and family, Rogério argued and even pushed the husband of Renata's niece, accusing him of flirting with her. Because of Rogério's behavior, Renata even separated from him for 2 months in 2008. However, he repeatedly sought her out, apologizing and promising to improve, so she agreed to give her beloved boyfriend another chance, and the relationship continued. The following years were very happy for the couple, and Rogério really seemed to have changed. Then, in September 2010, Rogério proposed to Renata, and she accepted, turning them from dating to engaged. Both were very excited about the wedding, making several plans and renovating an apartment to live together after getting married. The wedding took place on December 17th, and the celebration was set for the following Saturday, December 19th. For the celebration, the couple rented a luxurious condominium, Casa Grande de Aldea, known as one of the most elegant in the region. More than 200 people were invited to the party, which would last all night and end with breakfast. Everything was perfect, from the decorations to the food and music, just as the couple had dreamed. Rogério was very excited at the party, moving among the tables, greeting everyone, and expressing how happy he was to fulfill the dream of marrying the woman he loved. He also danced in the hall among the guests and pulled Renata to dance with him. His excitement was noticeable, something expected from a man who had just gotten married. However, all this happiness was about to change. The last photo of the couple was taken shortly before the tragedy. Around 2 a.m, Rogério gathered the guests in the hall and announced that he had a surprise. He then left the party toward his father's pickup truck and returned after 5 minutes, hiding a .38 caliber pistol in his clothes. Rogério approached Renata, hugged her from behind, and kissed her, then drew the gun and suddenly shot her in the head. He then began shooting randomly in the direction of the guests, grazing Renata's nephew and a family friend. The following shots were directed at his boss, Marcelo Guimarães, hitting him in the back. Marcelo tried to flee, but Rogério pursued him, firing 3 more times at him. The last shot Rogério fired was at his own head. After that, the horrified guests called the police and emergency services. When emergency services arrived, they found that Renata and Marcelo had died instantly, while Rogério was taken in critical condition to the hospital but also did not survive and passed away the next morning. The other 2 victims, Renata's nephew and the family friend, were treated and discharged on the same night of the crime. Before Rogério's death, his father claimed that his son was a good person, incapable of harming others, and that he could clarify what happened once he recovered. However, Rogério died without revealing why he committed such a sudden act of cruelty. The investigations began, and initially, the police believed the crime had been premeditated, as Rogério had brought the gun in his father's car. However, there was another mystery at this point. The murder weapon had disappeared before the police arrived at the scene and was not found anywhere. Days later, Rogério's father voluntarily presented himself to the police to return it. He claimed he had hidden the pistol in his apartment to prevent his son's conviction, had he survived. As a result, the father was indicted for obstructing justice, illegal possession of a weapon, and false testimony. The police continued investigating the case, trying to find a motive for why Rogério did all this. The first thought was that Rogério might have discovered some involvement between his wife Renata and his boss Marcelo, as they were his main targets. However, after much investigation into their phones and interviewing many witnesses and people who knew the 3, the police completely ruled out the possibility of any involvement between Renata and Marcelo. He was Rogério's boss at the motorcycle dealership, married with 2 children, and lived happily with his family. Moreover, apparently, he and Rogério got along well and had never had any disagreement. The initial theory that the crime had been premeditated gradually lost strength because everything pointed in the opposite direction. Rogério was making plans for the following week. He mentioned that he intended to finish painting the apartment and even counted the remaining drinks from the party, perhaps to extend the celebration the next day. This suggested that he didn't intend to take his own life that night. But if there was no premeditation, why did Rogério suddenly take this monstrous action in the middle of a party that was supposed to be joyful and the realization of his dream? Authorities also conducted toxicological tests on the bodies, revealing that Rogério hadn't used drugs and didn't have elevated levels of alcohol that night. Rogério's relatives were also questioned about his mental health but claimed no knowledge of any psychological treatment he might have undergone. Suspicions arose regarding a possible psychiatric illness, such as bipolar disorder, but there wasn't enough evidence to conclude this. Rogério's parents suggested that he might have been at the onset of depression due to work overload. However, they did not consider this to justify his actions. The main theory of the psychiatrists who analyzed the case points to a disorder that causes delusions. In Rogério's case, the delusions revolved around the excessive jealousy he felt towards Renata and the constant idea that she was betraying him. Perhaps at some point during the party, something triggered one of these delusions in him again, bringing forth his uncontrollable jealousy. It's hard to know what triggered this in Rogério or if this indeed happened, as small situations that were innocent in the eyes of others were enough to enrage him, and he's no longer alive to tell the truth. Some additional information revealed that Rogério sporadically used cocaine and marijuana, which could have contributed to the exacerbation of delusional ideas. The inquiry was concluded on February 11th of the following year, indicating that the crime was not premeditated but rather the result of an unknown impulse, as Rogério fired 16 shots, most of them random, hitting people other than Renata and Marcelo. Unfortunately, even 13 years after this tragedy, no one has been able to find an answer as to why Rogério acted in this way, completely destroying the happy life that was just beginning to be built alongside the woman he claimed to love. Leave your opinion on this case in the comments, subscribe to the channel to discover more stories like this, and don't forget to leave a like. See you in the next video.